day I wake up is another blessing. Thankful every second, getting God's protection. I lost connection in the desert, I had no reception. But in that time alone, I probably learned 1,000 lessons. I used my time for introspection and some self-reflection, and analyzed a couple ways to conquer my depression. Everything doesn't happen the way we plan it to, but if we harvest energy, then we can plan it too. So take a look in my eyes, that's where the story...
So, it's officially over. Finally, with this stupid deal. Let's see what information Spawnwave got to give us.
A couple of weeks ago, I made a video called "It's Over" with Microsoft and the FTC with all the.
I'm gonna start asking y'all
what
if y'all have stuff y'all want me to react to.
Testimony had finally come to an end, but we were waiting for the judge's decision and how everything would shake out ahead of that July 18th deadline. And now we know. In fact, it appears that it's officially over this time, and really over the weekend, Microsoft appears set up to close with that Activision Blizzard deal. And by Monday morning, Microsoft will officially own Activision Blizzard. And we're going to go over everything that's kind of led up to this point here today. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if new to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. So what happened, especially over the last week, where everything really started happening in rapid succession? I mean, it was impressive stuff, considering it takes forever for anything to happen in the court system all across the world, right? Doesn't matter where you are, just it takes way longer than it should. But I was impressed to see that something would get filed, a response would happen 2 hours later, and then decision would come down by the end of the day. So they were on this, and a lot of it did have to do with, well, July 18th being the deadline for Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, and a pretty clear strategy by the FTC to try to hold everything up until that date. But let's take a look. This is the decision that did come through on Friday. Now, earlier in the week, Judge Corley did deny the injunction that the FTC was seeking, basically to bar Microsoft from acquiring Activision Blizzard until later in the year, when the FTC would have a chance to present their case with more findings. Well, they did such a bad job showing that there should be an injunction so they can get more information on the whole thing, that they just got outright denied. Like, look, you can't even show me why we should wait that long for you to gather more stuff. What are you going to do, and what are you going to show up with in August or September or something to convince me more? So it got denied, and the FTC decided their last Hail Mary would be an appeal to for the Ninth Circuit, and they came back saying the motion for injunctive relief is denied.
They were going hard, bro. Like, why? Why were they going so hard? Like, why are y'all going so hard? I don't get it.
Which means that Microsoft is pretty much clear now to finally close the Activision Blizzard deal. We've been hearing about this for a year and a half now, right? There's been ups and downs on either side, whether it's Microsoft seemingly getting regulatory approval in one part of the world, and then another part coming in and blocking. And finally, though, with I think one hang-up being the CMA, Microsoft's ready to go. And I say one hang-up with the CMA. We'll talk about that in a moment. Microsoft most likely will close around the CMA and would pay any kind of penalties or fees or whatever they have to do there. Or even, I mean, it was mentioned that they might just leave the UK. I don't think that's happening. There's a lot
got some egg on their face now.
It's not just Xbox, it's Windows and all kinds of other stuff going on there. But the leverage for the CMA has basically evaporated now with the FTC.
Nobody backed y'all up.
Basically getting slapped around in court and now denied multiple times. It wasn't a great outing, actually, for the FTC with this whole thing. But the biggest part, like I mentioned about the CMA at this time, is Microsoft's come up with a strategy, it appears, according to Bloomberg, where they're considering selling some of its UK cloud gaming rights in a bid to gain regulatory approval for its $69 billion Activision Blizzard acquisition. The idea is the CMA has shown concern with
Microsoft is reportedly considering selling some of its UK cloud gaming rights. Really? That's interesting. Because that's their biggest push right now. And I wouldn't think they want to sell any of their cloud gaming rights. But their biggest push right now is Game Pass and cloud gaming and stuff. They want to keep all that?
With cloud gaming, cloud streaming, just the cloud in general. And Microsoft's market strength at that point with Activision Blizzard, it would be too much for anyone else to overcome. And as we know, when one company becomes incredibly powerful in one sector, they can start charging whatever they want. It's one of the reasons why it's important to have multiple platform holders in the gaming space, so we don't end up with games that cost $200 and a system that's $1,000 or something like that, right? So in this case, Microsoft, looking at the UK, is thinking, well, we could spin off the rights and sell it to another streaming company or whatnot there, right? And they would handle it in that region through us, and then we wouldn't necessarily control the cloud streaming market share in that area. But as I mentioned, I don't think it really matters at this time because the biggest holdup for Microsoft was in the U.S. with the FTC. It's their biggest market, and if they couldn't figure it out with the FTC by July 18th, I think everyone had serious questions if the deal was going to continue to be pursued by Microsoft. And even on Activision's side, they just get $3 billion. And for them, that's they can make a couple of Call of Duties, probably two. with that
I was just about to say that same shit.
We also had some decisions that were made when it comes to
Call of
the
Duties with that
Switch,
money.
which is pretty funny because in that previous video, I talked about how the Switch came up constantly, which is weird to think because the whole thing seemed to stem from Sony versus Xbox, but Microsoft wanted to keep bringing up the Switch because it kind of threw a wrench in the FTC and even Sony's argument, right? Well, the FTC and Sony did not want to bring up Nintendo. However, we actually had it decided in court. In fact, the judge said that, yes, the Switch is a competitor to the Xbox,
they were trying to say
and
the Switch wasn't a competitor.
And that throws a wrench into the FTC and Sony's plans and their argument because the Switch doesn't have Call of Duty, but it's incredibly successful, right? I mean, there's a chance, again, this thing could go on and be the best-selling console of all time.
Yeah, how is that not a competitor
game? I mean, does that mean that Sony should be able to do the same thing without Call of Duty? That's basically what's kind of been left up to interpretation, yes, but I mean, there is an example of it happening right now with Nintendo. So that's kind of why Sony and the FTC want to leave them.
That's kind of not fair. Nintendo got Mario. Like, no, Mario, that stuff can't go nowhere else. It's kind of like a cheat code. You know what I mean? Now, whose fault is it that the other two didn't build up their main platform games? You know what I mean? What happened to Halo? Sony's coming back with the God of War, but not everybody's gonna buy systems for that. You know what I mean? Especially if they just wait like a year for it to come out on PC or something.
Out of it. But I would say it was interpreted correctly in that it's also competing for your dollars in the entertainment area. And if you remember,
and that's just a
Judge
recent
Corley
thing
did
with
mention
Sony.
that well, the Switch seems like a better system overall because it's a hybrid system. Basically, you can take it with you. You can't do that with the Xbox or the PlayStation. It was kind of this interesting viewpoint from a more general consumer, right? The mainstream. It's like, well, it's not as powerful, but it can technically do more. Oh, and we did have some filings that seem to point to the belief that Nintendo is going to release their next generation platform in 2024. It does also kind of read like assumptions or beliefs.
That little accessory
going off of rumors and speculation that is happening right now online.
Yeah, I need that accessory.
But we can see in this filing between the FTC and Microsoft saying Switch was released 3 years earlier, and Nintendo is expected to release the successor to the Switch as early as next year, whereas PlayStation 5 and Xbox
Hey.
Series X and S are a
A
different
word?
stage of.
A word? Are did they just tell us when the new system's coming out? As early as next year. Switch 2 coming out
console
next year,
life
people.
cycle. And
Confirmed.
I saw some people kind of go back and forth. Would Microsoft really have knowledge of that? Well, I mean, they do technically develop a very successful game for the
I still
Switch,
need a
that being
PS5 though.
Minecraft. We learned in some of these filings that Minecraft is 2 to 4 times more popular in
See if I
terms
could
of
get one
revenue
by the end of the
generated
year.
than it is on the Xbox. And we see in Japan, it's Microsoft's only published game that's reached 1 million copies, and it's the Switch version. So yeah, Minecraft is very popular for Nintendo, so you figured they would be one of their high-level partners with a development kit of some kind, or at least knowledge of that. Now, would it come out in the courtroom in this setting? That seems like something that would have one of these big black boxes over it that's, for their sake, hopefully not done with Sharpie like we saw with Sony's. So it reads to be more like speculation, and most of us kind of sit around thinking that Nintendo is due to launch their next platform 2024, with, I figure, holiday 2024 being the latest. But when it's all said and done, I think we'll look back on this as a massive historic point in gaming. Yes, it's the largest acquisition that's ever happened in gaming, in technology, maybe ever. That's something I really need to look into to clarify, with the number of 70 billion getting thrown around. But one way or the other, I think it really shows just how important and relevant gaming is right now for that kind of money to be thrown around by
Yes,
really
sir.
what's still kind of viewed as an office company, like a company that deals more with office products and operating systems and software, to throw out $70 billion for a company that would be classified under entertainment, with Activision Blizzard even having Call of Duty at the center of the discussion. So
Yo,
it's something, again, we'll look back on. It'll
Call
be
of Duty's
interesting to
is
see what
Xbox
comes of
now,
this,
bro.
especially, well, in the short term, clearly with Game Pass, I assume
Call of
getting
Duty
an
is going to be
infusion
made by
of
Xbox
Activision
now.
Blizzard games, some new, some old, maybe some that Microsoft brings back their backwards compatibility
technically,
team to
probably
spruce up a
still
bit
by-
through
it's still gonna be called
FPS
Activision
boost and
Blizzard,
auto HDR and all kinds of stuff. That would actually be pretty neat to see happen. And of course, going forward, how does Microsoft...
That's a good question. How long do you think till they get rid of the name Activision Blizzard and just incorporate it into Xbox? That's a good one right there, right? I think it'll be a while if it ever does happen. But imagine Activision Blizzard gone. It's just Xbox now. That's great. That's a crazy thought. That's crazy.
Treat Call of Duty? Is it still an annualized game, or do they move some things around and maybe come up with some other projects for those teams? But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. A 1.5 year long saga finally coming to an end, and I believe Monday we will have the press release drop welcoming Activision Blizzard to the Xbox and Microsoft family. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Woo. Congratulations, Microsoft. Got Activision Blizzard. Hopefully this is actually a good thing. I can't wait to see what happens with all the IPs.
I'm hiding out, wilding out, cooling down, collecting thoughts till I find my route. And if they catch me, they'll be finding out what I'm about. Until then, I'm riding out. I'm hiding out, wilding out, cooling down, collecting thoughts till I find my route. And if they catch me, they'll be finding out what I'm about. Until then, I'm riding out, riding out. Check it out. I'm a desperado, I'm living it in real life. What's next to follow? I hit the bottle.